Welcome everyone to Enlightened World Network. I'm Deb Goldberg, and we are here with Divine Relationship Recovery today. And my special guest host is ShaRon Rea. Welcome, ShaRon.
Thank you, Deb. Nice to be here.
It's so nice to have you here. ShaRon was on with me, I think a couple of weeks ago, and we had an awesome show talking about preferences. But let me tell you, right? It was awesome. But I want to tell you a little bit about ShaRon. She is a passionate woman on a serious mission to make the world a better place. She is founder of the global movement, No Judgment, Just Love. People around the world are embracing this message and are inspiring others to live together with unconditional allowances, one conversation at a time. ShaRon is a dynamic speaker and applies creative imagery as an author describing how to live the no judgment, just love way, which is choosing to move beyond judgments that divide to consciously lead with love in your thoughts, words, and action. This will genuinely help us relate to each other better. ShaRon is a certified family communication and relationships coach, owner of the Whole Family Coaching. She compassionately helps families find solutions to challenges raising teens, co-parenting after divorce, for grandparents raising grandchildren, fathers taking on new roles in parenting, and every caregiver focused on raising responsible, self-confident, and happy children. My goodness. That is a task, and I'm so happy that you are here to do that because it's necessary.
It really is. Our families, sometimes, Deb, we get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And often communication and just honoring your teens as they're discovering and finding their way and realizing parents are learners just as much as they are teachers. It's a challenge because you kind of parent the way you were parented, or completely opposite if you didn't like how you were parented, and maybe neither one of those ways really helps your children.
I totally agree with you. Totally. I think it's so important to have these conversations and understand that there's another way.
Yes.
There are many other ways, and to actually parent as a conscious adult.
Yes. And what a concept that my growing up, that was not prominent in the world of families or parenting. And I think, this beautiful opening that's happening for all of us gives us a chance to be conscious in a lot of things in our space. And parenting, being in a family, even if you're not the parent, interacting with those people who are your blood relatives or your relatives by choice in your family, it's a conscious effort because people don't always naturally get along.
No, they don't. And it's probably, your relationships or your parenting, I think, and your love relationship or your marriage, whatever you want to call that, it is probably the hardest things that we do.
Yes. I don't know if you've heard this or align with this, Deb, but, there's that phrase of your soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
And often your soulmate, in my understanding previous, was someone you just flowed with. They came into your life and it was like, perfect match. Mm-hmm. But my former husband and I were opposites. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he is and was my soulmate because he enhanced my soul, not in the way that I would like flowing like butter, but, but with friction and frustration and anger, I grew out of that uncomfortable place.
That is so important what you said, and I believe that totally because I think I've talked about it before on this show, is that we have to reframe what our marriage is about, and what you think it's for and what it really is. And it is to learn how to expand your heart and to grow. And if we go deeper on a metaphysical level, It is you embracing the totality of who you are because your partner shows you the hidden parts of yourself.
Wow, yes, totally.
So, yeah.
And
So
to see every relationship, just like the title of your show, is divine. And so it's not just the ones that you love to be in that are divine. It's the ones that
right?
right, Deb? It's the ones that challenge you. They're divine in a whole new way.
Oh, you are so right. And so it's really having a whole different description or understanding of what relationships are for. And
Yes.
they're mirrors. They're mirrors to you wouldn't call it your hidden self or the other part of you. And that's where the harmony needs to happen, is learning how to live with the totality, the wholeness of who you are with all the different aspects of yourself.
Exactly.
So parenting and grandparenting and having a family and a marriage is a amazing piece in this puzzle of learning about yourself and learning how much love you can actually bring forth.
And it is, I'm not sure of another, but it is one of the only things that I can think of right now that everyone has a relationship with. We all come from a family of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so there is a unifying connector right there.
There is. There is. I love this. We should do a show one time just on all of this stuff. It's just so powerful and so important to look at our relationships that way.
Exactly. And we don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what this show's for, is it all about the divine relationship, because the divine relationship is what gives you the insight of how to look at your earthly relationships.
Correct. Yes. And you know, it's interesting because I have a program that I call Reframe Your Game. And if this really is a game we're living, you get to reframe everything. And the baseline is aligning with source and being at peace and being happy. And if those things that you're in front of or are experiencing are not that, you have permission and choice to reframe your game. Tell yourself the truth. Certainly don't lie to yourself, but tell yourself a truth. And that's where I love shows like yours, Deb, is because you get to expand your mind about what your truth might be.
I totally, thank you. Thank you. It is important to me. It is important that we reframe everything. So I'm so glad that you're doing that. Our perception can switch anytime we want it to. Yes. We can change our mindset at any time to see things from a higher perspective.
Yes. And just knowing that is such a freeing piece of knowledge, because you're never stuck.
Right.
Unless you choose to be or you're not aware.
Sorry about that.
Ooh, who else joined the show?
It's my phone. My phone sound was on, and so I was hearing us. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about the interruption.
No. It's all good. It's all divine.
It's all divine, yes. And we get to choose all the time how we want to see things and not get stuck in the minutia. And that leads right into our topic tonight, doesn't it?
Yes. How wonderful the segue.
It does. The confines of your mind. Goodness gracious. So this is God's title and the talking points I was given today for ShaRon and I to discuss this. So the first paragraph is, as you awaken and hear my voice, you will start to understand there is only one. The chit-chat you hear in your mind lures you into a maze filled with corners to get stuck in and pull you away from the freshness of love and peace. Oh my goodness, have I been in the corners of my mind over the years. And it still happens now and then. And that's how we learned that we can shift ourselves. But getting stuck in the corners, and this leads right into all the things that you've been working on too, because we get stuck in those corners that have constructs attached to them, beliefs, faulty beliefs, experiences that we had that we have not viewed at a higher level.
You know, when I was just awakening to the infinite opportunities that a spiritual life brings, I was sitting in my backyard. It wasn't as beautiful as the one you have there. But it was really lovely because I'm in Arizona, so we have a very different landscape. But I had a swimming pool, and it looks like this picture behind you doesn't have walls or fences. Well, in Arizona, for some reason, even though we have wide open spaces, every home is built with a wall around it. It's quite annoying. But anyway, so my wall, as I was watching it, I could see at the top of the wall and I could see at the base where my yard was. And on either side of my house, there was a gate to get out. One side had a little space underneath the gate, and the other side just had a little hole. And I watched, and we have quail here. You probably have robins and blue jays and all other kinds of birds that don't inhabit the ground so much. They're mostly in the air and the trees. But the quail here maneuver on the ground more often than not. They can fly. And so springtime, I'm sitting out, I'm watching, and I see a little row of like maybe 5 or 6 baby quail. They were so adorable. And they're running along the side of the wall, and they get to the corner and they're not sure which way to go, just like the confines of your mind. And the mom and dad had flown up to the top of the wall, so they had a broader vista and they could see where the out was. And they kept chirping at them, and the baby birds would just keep getting stuck into the corner. And that your title that God gave you just reminded me of that imagery. And as soon as the babies could turn the corner and they saw the out, the mom, and they were just flying and fluttering at the top, and the babies are running out. So what an analogy, huh?
It's a beautiful metaphor. Everything we see outside of us is a metaphor teaching us something. And the birds are teaching us just what you described. It was so beautiful, because that's what happens to us. We get stuck in these horrible places in our mind. Most of us are not getting stuck in a happy place where it's, hey, everything's wonderful. I love it here. Yeah, it's sort of, I look at our mind like it's a long hallway, like a floor on a hotel rooms, a floor of them, and that we just keep opening the different doors and we go in and we shut the door for a while and we're like, what's going on in here? Oh my goodness, what did I just walk into? Oh, this is all the memories stored in each one of these rooms, and you could just get stuck in them. And I remember when I first woke up, to even stay present for a minute was a big deal. I didn't realize how not present I was.
Exactly. And we're conditioned, I think, from however we were brought up with our parenting, whatever we absorbed from television or messages that came to us in magazines or public policy, all of that, to live, to me, more often than not, in a confined way, a controlled way, a way that is not natural to who we really are. And so I agree with you that you just get stuck and aren't able to hold a joyful or a peaceful or a happy thought because you're so conditioned to be in that corner.
Yeah, I think whatever you grew up with, the environment, is your mind wants to keep recreating that same environment over and over and over again. Whether it's happening or not, it's drawing you back into, so my household was dysfunctional, and it was, yelling and all kinds of stuff like that. So and I had to walk on eggshells, and I was always in trouble. So my whole, being was going forward is even when I wasn't living at home anymore, I was still living that life in my head of what's coming around the next corner, what's going to happen, having to strategize.
Yeah.
All the time I'm strategizing to keep myself safe.
What a chore. What a mental, emotional chore.
It takes up so much time in your head to try to reason through everything to make sure everything is right all the time. And to be so hyper vigilant. And this is what happens when people are traumatized. You become so hyper vigilant about what's outside of you to make sure that you're safe all the time. And so when we are so busy in those old mindsets, we can't hear God calling us.
No, we don't even know that he is calling us. And what you said about those old confines and constructs and trying to keep ourselves safe, we're doing an impossible job, because keeping yourself safe outside of you is not where safety is. Safety is inside of you. So we're constantly failing at what we think we're trying to do.
Exactly. That is such an important part of understanding that you create safety within yourself. And for me, that took hearing God's voice, because I could not create safety inside of me until I was reparented by God and Jesus to understand how to see myself and the world through a divine lens, and not the one that I grew up with.
And would you say, Deb, that was an effortless reframing and readjusting, or it took some trust, belief, effort, experiment?
It took all of that, because I was so untrusting because of trauma that I've said before, I think every morning I hear, "I love you." And it took me a year and a half or more to actually accept it.
Whoa.
And believe it. It was like this block. This block that I just wouldn't let it in. And every single day I heard the same thing. And it was building trust. It was like the first couple of years was just trying to understand who I thought I was and what I was living, and all the stuff that I had shoved down. And so each piece had to be pulled back out and looked at. And through that experience, all the trust and the faith came, and because I was not let very far off the rope. Like I was constantly being pulled in, and I only wanted to go inside because I didn't know how to deal with what was coming up inside of me.
Wow.
So it was a process for me. That's part of the journey, is letting go and starting to trust that there's a divine plan for you.
And that to me is the therein lies the rub. Because I can imagine some people might think, oh, it's all laid out and I just have to follow the road. But we have choice. So it may be laid out, but there are opportunities, I believe, along the way of your journey that if you had chosen before you incarnated, and now you're like, ooh, I don't want to do that. Or, hey, this looks so much better. Can I go over there? Well, yeah, there's 1,000 different ways to be and become who you are meant to be and become. And none of them are off track to me.
No, they're not. That's not, from what I've learned is that everything's accounted for. So even when you decide to make a side trip. It's already accounted for because it's known that you are doing this because our lives are already done.
Yes.
Our lives are already done. So it's known what you're already doing. It's known because God's moving through you as you. And so the story's already been written. And it's a very interesting way to understand that you are making choices all day long, but your choices are in perception. Your choices are, how am I going to perceive this? Okay, I'm seeing something, how am I going to perceive this? And therefore, how I perceive it is how I'm going to react to it or respond to it.
Yes. And, I think it becomes important to use all of these concepts that we've been exploring when you get stuck. Because when you get stuck and you don't have any new thought, don't have any new perspective, you can't really see a way out like those little birds. Mm-hmm. If you know that God and the universe and whoever all your helpers are up high on a ledge, and just look up and they'll point you in the direction that you need to go.
Yeah, I know it's happening all the time. I had an appointment earlier and I was so busy doing something else and distracted. And here it was a minute before my appointment that I was basically forgetting. And up pops a little thing on my a Facebook message going to somebody else, but I see it and it's the person's name who I have an appointment with. And I'm like, thank you.
Yes.
Thank
yes.
you. It's always helping.
Always. And it's always helping in a loving, kind, appropriate way, never sending you to harm or fear or nervousness. And I think knowing that has helped me discern which voice I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. And also I think I hear at a particular place on my body. So sometimes the voice comes over here, I hear it back here, and hardly ever is it in front of me, which is interesting. But usually it's back here and I go, oh, okay. I'm listening now.
And that's so funny, SharRon, because the next paragraph it just leads right into that. I love it.
Oh my.
So that is, my voice is a spring eternal showering you with love. You cannot mistake it, for it will not have the same feeling from any other voice. I keep beckoning you home out of the confinement of your mind, calling you to greater things that I have planned for you.
Wow. I guess I was listening.
You were. Everything is already done.
Yes.
So God's voice, everybody hears Spirit talk to them in a different way. And some people hear auditorily. Some people, you always hear through your heart. Like words are just spoken up through your heart and you just know what you're being told. It's like a knowingness rather than hearing. We all have the ability to hear, but some people are afraid to hear. And so therefore they don't hear, because I know when I first heard God talk to me, it was odd. And I heard it outside of my ear. It was really loud, like talking right in my ear.
Wow.
And when I heard Jesus first, and Jesus I heard inside auditorily, like he's just talking to me in my mind and I hear him in his voice. And then here's this big voice now, like right in my ear, and I'm like, okay, what is that? And then you're kind of like, what are you gonna hear? What am I gonna hear? And if you're afraid of God and you don't have a relationship with God, people get scared of, if Spirit's gonna talk to me, what is it going to say? And then sometimes because of religion or what people have been taught, they feel that God is judging. And I promise you, that is not the experience that you will have. That's all within your own self. That's all part of those
Exactly.
constructs that are stuck in our mind about who we believe God to be. So I had been praying and praying and praying and saying, God, tell me what my calling is. What is it? What is it I'm supposed to be doing? And all of a sudden I hear, are you ready to listen? That's the first thing I hear.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It was hilarious. That's the name of my first book.
Are you ready to listen?
Are you ready
Yes.
to listen, God?
Oh, I don't want my words to be wasted.
Oh my God. And he was so right, because I had my ears shut. I didn't want to learn anything from anybody. It was all trust issues and
Yes.
control issues, and believing that I knew, and I knew better for me than somebody else, but I didn't even trust my own self.
Oh, wow. So really nobody.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah. So when you hear the voice of your creator, it's profound. It is, and so it may not be loud. It may be soft. It will talk to you in your own personality. So
Interesting.
how you are, God meets you how you are.
That's so interesting you say that, because I think the voice, I don't really hear, or maybe I'm not listening in a way that I can affirm that I hear a voice. How I know which is why I benefit from people helping me discern what I'm thinking or feeling, because I don't really hear the words all the time. But what I do is I'm a visual person, so I see a lot of symbols.
Mm-hmm.
I hear music, or a bird will fly by, or I open my book to a page and there's, the words that I wanted to hear, or I have a visceral around my body feeling. So the goosebumps, or,
Mm-hmm.
full body ones, or just a tingling on my neck. So I think the voice is permission to define however you receive it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So God shows up any way you want to receive it. Creation is always speaking to you, whether it's something outside or inside, because it's all one.
Yes.
And so creation is always speaking to you, and meets you where you are and what your comfort level is. So God shows up as angels. God shows up as Jesus. God shows up as Buddha. God shows up as whatever you connect with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because
And it's always peaceful. It's always inviting. It's always knowledgeable. It's always caring. And that is a little bit, that's a little challenge to get used to. Just as you spoke about early childhood trauma, I don't know that many people have truly experienced unconditional, total, just adornment to you.
mm-hmm.
And so when you feel that, or you start to embrace that possibility, it's so foreign to many people that it's hard to know, which is why you said, I don't know if I want to hear what he's got to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is that's exactly what I went through. Is I've never experienced unconditional love before, and adoration, and that's all that it is. And then
Yes.
you learn to have a mutual relationship of unconditional love and adoration between you and your creator. And it is a beautiful, beautiful dance.
Yes. And then once you have that feeling, fleeting as it might be, if you're still uncovering that, then you're able to choose to give that to other beings, other animals, other things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it's a pretty duh statement to say you can't give what you don't have, but somehow we keep expecting people to give what they don't have.
Right, right. And so there's a well of love that just flows through you. It's a stream of love.
Yes.
And as you get deeper into your relationship with God, you understand that it's actually your love, because there is no difference between you. You are divine, you are one. And so you're actually meeting your own self.
That is a perfect statement, because in this quest of self-love, love yourself, it's not just going to a spa. It's not just, it's those things too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it is sincerely finding the untethered condition of loving yourself no matter what you think you've done, not done, should have done.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tall order down here.
It is a tall order, and I would not be able to do that without this relationship.
Right, me either.
Yeah, no way. There's just so much grace given in this relationship for you to learn how to have grace for yourself and then for everyone else. That this experience is what it is. And you're so much more than what you understand that you are. And so going inside and actually listening, because a lot of people say, I try to listen and I'm listening and I'm listening, but I can't hear. And so sometimes we can try too hard.
Yes.
And it's really just being quiet and still and knowing that it is with you. The presence is with you always. And as you become more open, you will start to hear it, or you'll feel it. A lot of people actually do access that and hear or know, but they don't believe it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They don't believe themselves. When I first woke up, all I kept hearing in my mind from ego was, you just made that up. You're not really hearing anything. There's nothing going on here. There's no such thing. You're crazy. So you have a part of you that just disqualifies
Yes.
your connection to God. And it's all part of the experience. And it's learning to master your internal world of you, and knowing that you have this voice that is always the one that lures you into those corners in your mind and away from God. It's there, and it's learning how to work around it.
Yes. And my voice kept saying, is this true?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to ask that question anymore. And, and then after is this true? I would say, I don't need to answer that. And then I hear on this side, well, that's very Pollyanna of you.
Yeah.
I'm not listening to that one either.
It's a peanut gallery living in our own head.
I know. Tossing those nuts.
Yeah, right. Which one are you going to grab onto today?
Yes. How can I get you? And I've now recognized that our ego and those voices everything has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And what at least I've embraced is that purpose is here to keep me safe.
Mm-hmm.
But we've evolved as a species that where I live, I don't need to be safe from a bear coming to eat me, or a hill that I'm going to walk over that I don't know what's going down.
Right.
So those commands or intentions or things that take you into the corners of the confines, I just say, thank you for trying to keep us safe, but we don't need that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
we're beyond that, and I appreciate that. So every time you say it, I'm going to thank you, but then I'm not going to listen.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's very important not to get into conflict with that voice, because I've done it and it turns you inside out like a washing machine.
Really?
It creates a lot of energetic resistance inside of you. It's almost like you feel like you're the angel and the devil's fighting together, and
Wow.
and it's a terrible, terrible, terrible place to go to. And so it's really important to learn how to gracefully acknowledge that that voice is there, and you live with it harmoniously. Like you said, I don't need your help right now.
Right, right. Thank you for offering. Go sit down.
Yes. You know, a lot of people hear God's voice as their own voice. And so they think it's their own thinking, rather than understanding that there's only one mind, there's only one voice. All of this other extraneous stuff is what you start to learn, like, oh, that's 3D stuff. That's not God.
And I can imagine as you're speaking, Deb, that without awareness, and maybe that's not the audience that we have here, but it could be perceived as Sybil. How many voices in your head talking to you?
Yeah.
And you're listening to all of them, and you want to eliminate some of them. And you know, there was a wonderful book and a really great movie with Sally Field, and it just opened that, yeah, there are many parts of me, and all of them are not necessarily for my best good.
Yeah, they're parts of us that they became adaptations as we experienced life. It's like a younger version of yourself that is more ego and wounded.
Yes.
That it's taken that experience and feeling like it has to be a certain way to protect itself. And so yeah, we have all these different aspects. We're a one-man show.
We are. We are.
We're all the characters in the book, in the story. So the next paragraph is, my loving voice offers you peace, but you must hear it to receive it. My voice sounds like joy to your heart and ears. You must be still and quiet to come to know my voice, but once you do, once you hear me and know, you will know me well. At that time, our union becomes more known to you as one, and you feel my presence all the time, knowing I am always within, never separate or abandoning you.
Separate or what?
Or abandoning you.
Yeah.
Always. And to get to a place of knowing that you are never alone, that God is walking your life with you as you, brings such peace and contentment and joy. It does not mean that you don't get pulled back out to one of the confines again, that you're still dabbling in that stuff. And but you always shift back to understanding that you are completely loved, and the presence of love inside of you is overwhelming.
Yes. Yes, it is. And even in your despair, and even in your disbelief, or your having turned away, it's still pouring. And still, I'm sorry to call you it, but the love is still pouring and available and wanting to serve you. It is such a dichotomy, Deb, sometimes when I'm living it, when I can talk about it easily, but when I'm living it and I'm in my darkest moments, there's now, because of all the years I've learned and expanded and practiced and all that, even though there's this undercurrent of, we got you, don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
You go ahead, do whatever you have to do, it's all right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, oh, I can cry, oh, I can sit on the sofa all day, oh, I can whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because unconditional means no conditions
Mm-hmm.
will thwart or, boy, look at all these words coming at me, will stop the love from flowing.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. Beautifully. It's a beautiful example of any moment, nothing changes. Love never changes. We shift. We shift into whatever dealing with life, but love never changes.
And is it, I don't know what else he's got to say for us, but it just, when love never changes, I just saw my little quail again in the confines, in the corner, being stuck in that corner. And no matter how long they're stuck, there is a way out.
Mm-hmm.
And the way out is known. And the bird's not going to fly away to leave you on your own.
Mm-hmm.
It is a uncommon feeling, I think, for us here.
Mm-hmm.
Because most love, even though, the person that loves you so completely that you think is not, there is still a condition. Stay with me. Don't go. Do this with whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true. It is very true. We don't feel that. The love that I feel from God is not the love that I feel in the world.
Ding dong.
It's not. It's just not possible. It's not, because we have because we are one man show, and we have all of these constructs that we're still hanging on to, and it does not allow us to always stay in the expansiveness of our heart and our mind. That's what this whole journey is about, is people reawakening to your own divine nature, that you keep stepping closer into the truth of who you are. And it's not like you're changing, you're transforming into something else. You're not learning something else. What you're doing is just relearning who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And having an understanding of that. And the more lighter you get, the more expansive your heart gets, the more your mind expands. It's a beautiful journey when you allow it.
And you reframe it as a beautiful journey.
Yeah, reframe it rather than, oh my God. And I've been there. I've said, take me home. I don't want to play anymore.
Exactly.
I don't like this game. And
I don't like this game. Yes.
I don't like it. Or I don't want to be your puppet. You got this whole plan. This is ego talking, right?
Yes.
This is looking at, okay, you have everything planned for me and all of this stuff. Well, I don't like it, and I don't want to be a puppet. It's hilarious.
Says, okay.
It's hilarious. And I had to get past that. I was angry. I was really angry. And then I realized, that's just, when we get like that, it's because we're not seeing the bigger picture. Because we can't really see the big picture, because it's too expansive for us.
And that's where trust comes in. I mean, with all of these concepts that we've talked about, two things come to my mind. One is, when you are stuck in those confines, in those corners, in those loop of unfortunate conversation you're having with yourself, once you release that, once you allow yourself to come out, once you are guided out, however you get out, it feels like that one dissipates. It just kind of poofs off into nothingness, because you know the way out, and there's no need for it to be there. Sometimes I feel like the confines are loving to us. That reframing, that, okay, it's just like the soul, what I just say? The soulmate. It's the opposite. It's not always a comfiness,
right,
where you grow. Sometimes you grow through the rocks, and you grow through the rubble.
Yeah.
Love that. And that allows everything to just flow. It's not good, it's not bad. It just, oh, here's another one. And if you have awareness that everything is divinely planned for you, but there's a lot of extra roads that you can take, you're never wrong. You're never in the wrong place. You're never off track. No matter how far you think you've gotten, that was peaceful.
Right.
So opposite of what I grew up with, Deb. It's just like a mind
I know.
blown.
I know. It's like you have to relearn everything. It's like you went back to kindergarten and you have to go through everything all over again.
Yes, and they're not teaching any of the same things.
I'm on a different planet right now.
Right.
Yeah, it is amazing. So the more time you spend in that relationship, you are going to be reparented to see things from a higher perspective. Now we have some people on.
Oh, wonderful.
And Carol Ann Allen says, I think that describes me. I hear my voice answering. I always question if it's God or one of my guides. Yeah. And so you know, people call it all different things. Your higher self, God, angels, but there's only one. So it's God showing up in all these forms to support you. It's like your stories has a huge support network, a spiritual guidance team, but it's all God, and it is your voice because you are God. You are one with God. And that's another thing, as we were talking about questioning ourselves, and I keep reminding myself, I'm questioning God. This is what God put before me. This is what I'm doing, and I'm questioning. Is it not good enough? Is it the wrong thing to do? Is it the right thing to do? And you're always questioning rather than trusting.
Yeah.
But that's the peanut gallery all the time in there, you know, like saying, but it's always cause and contrast so we can discern better. And so, yes, Carol, you are hearing God speak to you in your own voice because you are that.
Yes.
You are that. And Ruth saying, ladies, I'm so enjoying this conversation. Needed this sage reminder today. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Carol. It's really, these are conversations I think we need to have more often. And that's why I really like the concept of this show. And God completely changed it on me because I used to pick the topic. I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about this today. And then it's all of a sudden, no, here you go. Here's your talking points. This is what I want you to talk about because people need to understand me. People need to understand who God is, not who you've been taught who God is. And you only get to know that by having a relationship, your own relationship, and then learning who God is through your eyes, through your heart, through as your being, as the life force, as the breath that you breathe. And it is such a beautiful relationship, and it's not to be afraid of.
Right.
You know, people come out and they say, oh, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to hear something bad or negative or, you know, like something that's evil or whatever. And there is no truth to that. If you're hearing that, this is what I've been told. If you're hearing any of that stuff, it's your ego playing games with you because it used to make believe it was Jesus too. The ego, I would listen to it.
Really?
And it was the spiritual ego. Make it believe it's God and Jesus and talking to me. And I'm like, I'm not sure what I'm hearing. But you know, like he said, you feel different when you are hearing from him. Now, the last one says, it is time to stop playing in the confines of your mind and keep listening for my voice. It is time for you to recognize that our voice is one and the same. I am you and you are me eternally. I will always keep calling you home to return back to the peace and joy of our divine nature. I love you.
Wow.
You're on a short leash. We are on a short leash.
That was the vision that came in my head, was that strap thing that parents have sometimes attached to their kid. It wasn't a dog that came up, it was the child. You know, yeah, you can only go so far, and then I got to bring you back.
Mhm. Always bringing you back in, calling
Yep.
you back in. I used to say it felt like even the universe was like a hand that was like just moving me where I needed to go when I was not paying attention, that it was just leading me in the right direction of what I needed to do next.
Yes.
These are such important understandings how you're living your life together.
And you know, sometimes it's valuable to think that you're sequestering yourself or walling yourself off or being by yourself, but you're never really alone. I think there's two, for me, that is a juxtaposition of those two things. Sometimes I want the solitude. I want to be in the woods by myself, or I want to be in my own space, or I want to, you know, put my headphones on and just go away, because maybe I'm feeling sad, or maybe I just want that time. And but I'm never alone in that.
Mhm.
There's always a connection, whether I realize it or not. There's always a connection, pouring beautiful love and peace, and it's hard to hold on to that, Deb. I think a lot of the time we get kind of 2D and 3D and just think that this is all there is.
Right.
But when you can open up to that and redefine the voice for you, the voice doesn't have to be audible in your ear. It's not always audible in my ear. It's sometimes in my heart, or in the feeling on my skin, or the messages that I see in my world.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's easier to know, oh, always here. Oh, okay, thanks.
I know. It's always there waiting to help you in any way that you can imagine. You couldn't be alone if you wanted to be.
Right.
Fantastic. And what a freeing way to go through life, knowing that you are walking in grace all the time.
And you don't have to do it by yourself. You got an issue, ask, and then listen, because as soon as you ask, it's always given, always.
Mm-hmm.
And
Always.
take a little time lag, which is where faith comes in, and then watch it unfold.
Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, I'm hearing a little reverb somewhere. I don't know if it's also on someplace else.
I don't hear any reverb.
Okay. Well, I don't know where it came from. It's sort of like Facebook on her. Well, it's okay. All is well. And, you know, this has been an awesome show. I'm so happy to be here with you, ShaRon. It's a beautiful discussion.
Thank you, Deb. Me too. I love how we are on the same page with different words.
Yeah.
And different concepts, things that we know. I always learn when we have conversation, and I enjoy that.
I do
Thank
too.
you.
I do too. And it's really nice to find out that really we're all saying about the same thing. We're just saying it in our own way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it really helps to do what we're doing, which is have conversation about these concepts, because hearing other people having similar experiences or sharing the same idea that you have, knowing that you can receive and hear from God and you're just letting us know what he's saying, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It is, I am blown away by it myself. it, you know, it's just so overwhelming. At times it's funny, then it's just like, well, I just expect it because it's been that way for so long. But it is um it just feels so good to me that I know that, okay, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to
Yeah.
bring God's messages forth. And it took me a long time to get comfortable with that. And each one of us have gifts to bring forth, and they're all divinely given. And one is not more important than the other.
No, not at all.
Not at all. And everybody has a special role to play in this world. And it's bringing love and light, bringing God's love and light to each other.
And sometimes I get off course into the confines because I believe I am comfortable and aware of why I'm here, especially with the movement of no judgment, just love. It is to be that.
Mm-hmm.
No judgment. And of course, that's a challenge because we judge all the time, every day, all the time. But to move beyond that, to love unconditionally. And the reason I always use loving allowance is because that allows me to let people be who they are. No one has to change. No one has to be altered. I can have an opinion, but at the end of the day, I want to see you in wherever you are. And so sometimes I get a little guilty, Deb, or I get a little, in my little confines where, well, look at you living so peaceful when all this stuff is going on in the world. And look at you not having any anger. And look at you. And then just today, really, I was like, God bless us, you and me, God, because you've put me in a place where I can see the peace. I can experience the unconditional love. I know that I'm manifesting with my thoughts, and I'm being very deliberate with what I think and what I say. And now, having experienced it, I can share with other people the hardships that you just reframe to, not just because it's a little work, but that you reframe to something else. So every day is wide-eyed and curious. What do I get to experience today?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And that leads me into having you talk a little bit about your new show that you're planning. And I don't know, are you still doing the comfy couch?
I'm doing the comfy couch when the comfy couch on its magic carpet flies in and wants me to do it.
Okay.
We did around 4 or 5 of them, and they were phenomenal. And right now it's kind of landed until it's needed again, or maybe it's going to reform. But I got the idea because I am a communications and relationship coach, and I have had years of experience being the ambassador between people saying one thing and the other person hearing something else, and their complete misunderstanding. And so with all of this allowance and figuring out who's talking and hearing God, I'm able to, well, that's what they said, but this is probably what they meant. Is that what you meant? Well, yeah, but that's what I said. Well, in your mind, that's what you said, but that's not what the person heard. So I'm getting the great opportunity to have a show, and it's really just 15 minutes of tips about conscious communication, being deliberate about your words, understanding that what you say is not necessarily what someone else hears. Mm-hmm. And so all of that with the underscore of the magic carpet of no judgment, just love. And we get to expand and thrive in our spiritual growth with all of the other wonderful practitioners that are offering tools and classes and shows. And then here I come to complement that with what I believe are tangible ways, once you've evolved, once you've gone in and you're still uncovering, to actually communicate your truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that people want to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to hear it, that you reframe that to say, I'm doing harm here to myself and the other. Let me not try and convince them of something.
Mm-hmm.
Let me allow them to have their way. And I skippity dooed off into mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is so important. I'm so glad you're going to be starting to talk about that. Because,
Thank you, Deb.
yeah, I really am. Because, the comfy couch was all about also helping us be able to articulate, understand, or even go in and understand what our feelings are, what our biases are, especially all the things that are going in our world today is just teasing up all of these thoughts that we have.
Yes.
And they are part of the constructs that are stuck in the confines of our mind. So you being able to talk and help people, teach them tools of communicating and really allowing each person to be who they need to be without you having to change them, but being able to articulate your feelings and beliefs in a way that can be received so you can have a conversation.
Yes. An authentic conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's safe. You get to be heard. The other person wants to talk to you, whether that's your teenager or your former husband or somebody in this beautiful spiritual community that we've created. It becomes, because this is the way we communicate, we're not completely telepathic yet. And words matter. And how you put them together either makes a symphony or something that's harmful to your ears.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the gift I want to share on these shows. And there is Motivation Monday, 15 minutes, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and then Feel Good Friday, same 15 minutes, 9 o'clock.
Oh, and you said they'll start what, July 20?
July 20th, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And those times are Eastern time?
Eastern time. I think everything is just situated on Eastern time.
Okay.
And we all, because in Arizona, we don't change our time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So thank you, everyone. If you do tune in, I would love to see you there.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few minutes of your morning to get your mindset on Monday, and a few minutes of your morning on Friday to have a happy weekend.
It's a beautiful way to start the day. And you have a website that people can go to, right?
Yes, it's www.njjl.world. And you can get in touch with me there. You can learn more about No Judgment, Just Love. There's an opportunity to purchase a coloring book for your young ones. It's in rhyme, and there is a left hand and a right hand edition.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, ShaRon. I appreciate all the love and light that you bring to the world. And I'm just happy to share this space with you.
Thank you for inviting me, Deb, into your garden. It's a beautiful place.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
I just wanted to give people a heads up that I'll be starting a series of master classes on Saturday, July 11th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's called The Journey to Spirit. And the first one is about getting started, how to connect to divine love and heal yourself. So we'll be meeting your spiritual guide or deepen the relationship with the ones that you know. And so it's going to be 90 minutes of really doing some learning and doing experiential meditation so that you can actually go in and feel the presence of love within you and hopefully start to have communication. So I'm really looking forward to you joining me on that. And that'll be for 5 Saturdays. There'll be all different classes. The second one is on healing your inner child. So you can check those out at Enlightened World Network on the events. And I am also going to be on Heart and Soul tomorrow with Michelle Landers. And actually also Thursday, tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. on Angel Heart Radio, I will have Harrison Klein with me. So it's a busy couple of days. And I'm really excited to be here with you doing this. And so I'm going to say goodbye for now. knowing that we are one love, protected and held in divine order by our Creator. Go out this day in this awareness and allow God's peace and joy to occupy every thought. Lead with your heart and welcome everyone home, for all is loved. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. Bye, everyone.